Oh, that's live.
We are currently live. Thank you for joining today's live. I'm privileged to have gentlemen and a lady on today's live. For those that are joining this live stream, just know that this is the very first live stream that we are carrying out on this very channel. And notify whoever that you think wants to find out the things that we are talking about today. Our subject of discussion today is how to resettle and do business in Africa. We have a couple of individuals. As I can look at the live right now, we don't seem to have so many people, but I can see only one person. So let me share the link, the live link with friends so that they can join us. Just one moment. So I'm dropping the link into your WhatsApps so that probably you can share with your communities everywhere. Share that. So maybe you could do the sharing. You could do the sharing, but for starters, we could do a brief introduction. People will find out. We could have our own casual conversations as we continue, but our conversation is to how to resettle and do business in Africa. I wanted to start with. I want to start with Maaso Glory. Maaso Glory, could you kindly tell us where you are right now in the UK and what you think of Uganda currently?
I'd run away.
So hi guys. I'm based in London, UK. And what do I think of Uganda? I think it has a lot of scope for opportunities, so things like investments and things like that. I think there is scope for it. So, I mean, I'm here to kind of expand on that and discuss on it and just hear what everyone else has got to say, as well as add my own contribution to that type of discussion.
Okay. Yeah, Maaso Glory, I know you're Ugandan and you occasionally come back to Uganda once in a while. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, you haven't been able to come back to Uganda. And we would want to know where does that, how has that impacted on your business and these other things that you are into? I know you're a philanthropist, an upcoming philanthropist. So I would want to know, how are you coping with this whole situation?
I mean, so basically, initially, our business was, because of the COVID regulations, they shut down all the malls in the shopping center. So our business was one of those that were affected. So we literally had to close down for, I think it was a period of probably about 4 months or 5 months. And it was really bad because, like, obviously that meant that there was no money coming in, there was no customers coming in. So then I then had to devise another strategy of kind of like relying a lot more on online sales and marketing as opposed to the physical shop itself. It was also difficult from the perspective of still having to pay out employees, but yet not getting anything in terms of sales, but still having to pay them out a salary, because obviously I just wanted to retain them. And I mean, it's been very difficult in a lot of ways. We've had to, because the sort of business that I deal with is kind of like cosmetics, so a lot of the stuff expire when they get like when you keep them in a heated place for a long period of time, they kind of like expire. So we had to like throw a lot of stock away. So the implications have been quite enormous financially, I should
Okay.
say. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Jermaine Rwabs, could you kindly share with us your perspective? Where are you currently, and could you tell us what you think of Uganda? We're talking about Uganda. We will go broad in terms of East Africa because we are all Ugandans, but we want to hear from you, Jermaine. Where are you currently, and do you have
All right.
expectations of coming back to Uganda?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity to discuss with you all. I'm currently in Kigali, Rwanda. And obviously, I've been here for the last 8 years. The way I think about Uganda is like if I can I say your New York of East Africa? There's a lot of opportunities in Kampala itself, and which sometimes Ugandans or people who dwell in Kampala or Uganda don't understand that actually there's so many opportunities in agriculture, in real estate, in transport, everything. In tourism, there's a lot of opportunities in Uganda, and actually Uganda has been showing one of the best models in terms of middle class businesses or investors. You have one of the largest middle class kind of businesses, and I think those are the ones that actually help the economy to grow, as opposed to other East African countries around. So I know there's a lot of opportunities there, and obviously, post-COVID era, we may need to re-strategize and see where to invest and put in money. For our side here in Kigali, yes, we've been hit by COVID as well, like any other country. We've been hit by COVID. And in my own industry, which is advertising and branding, it's crazy, very, very crazy, because so many of our clients just decided to terminate contracts, obviously, laying off some workers. So it was quite difficult. As we speak right now, it's still, the same situation. We haven't yet normalized the situation. So I guess 2020 is just a year of survival, not in progress.
Okay, thank you very much, Rob. Yes, Anthony. Anthony, could you share with us your perspective? I know you're currently in Uganda. Could you kindly share with us your perspective? Probably tell us who you are, what you do, and then share your perspective of how things are currently in Uganda.
All right, thank you. Thank you, William. First, I would like to say I'm happy to be here, and it's good to see all of you guys, Rwabs, Maaso Glory, and Ken. It's good to have all of you guys here. I'm based in Kampala, like William has just said. I'm called Anthony Mukiibi, and I'm a management consultant. That's what I've been doing for the past 3 years. We make our 4th year this year. And it's quite an interesting business because we deal with businesses, growing businesses, mature businesses, trying to see how to support them into growth, trying to see how to even support those that are trying to find their way. We've seen a lot of confusion in the marketplace. Most people do not know what's going to happen. And when there's confusion, obviously there's loss, because if you're not sure where you're going, you find people taking decisions which are quite permanent for this, which seems to be a temporary situation. Most people have decided to shelve some ideas that they had at the beginning of the year. Others, after eating into their savings, have decided to close shop. And many directors and business owners are now out there seeking work again. So it's been quite an up and down sort of curve during this period. However, like the saying goes, as some lose money, some make that money back. So there's also some businesses that have picked up during this period, especially businesses that deal with delivery, because the lockdown has seen some people, especially here in Kampala, Some people have actually completely stayed home. Some offices have supported them to stay home. So those who couldn't, those who can't come to town now, are appreciating delivery business, be it food, pharmaceuticals, even retail boutiques that have gone into that area, salons. So we've seen that there's a sort of an understanding that delivery can work, and some have embraced it. But also, the bad side of this whole thing is that those businesses that were on the edge, those who are really depending on each customer that came in per day, have taken it really hard. Actually, today when I was coming back home, I had a strange interaction with a border man who was telling me how a border man is the guy who does, I think you all know border. I was going to go into it, an explanation. You all know border men. This guy told me that the lockdown was the best period in terms of their earning, because there are few of them out there and they had to find a way on how to actually make business. So they're doing all sorts of weird things to move passengers, even if it was illegally, that he feels that that showed him that the staying power of being in that business has sort of seen him through. Unlike many of his colleagues who went to the villages, some sold the bikes, and they're in all sorts of vocations right now. So yes, it's a bit of this and that that we've seen through COVID. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. Ken, could you kindly throw in something? Could you tell us where you are right now and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, well, for me, I wouldn't say much about Uganda because it's been a while. I think I was last in Uganda in 2019 around April, and I just came for about 30 days and I came back here because I had things to finish up. I was doing my research, so it was kind of a very busy year for me. But how the whole situation has turned out here, well, first of all, I live in Italy. I've been in Italy for the last 3 years. Yeah. So the situation here really has also been, of course, we know Italy at one time became the epicenter of the whole COVID-19 breakout and all that. But the way these people manage the situation is a little bit different different from how other countries have managed the situation. However, latest news is that right now the situation is actually looks like people are anticipating that there could be a second wave of a breakout, and in fact right now we are now putting on our masks except when you're in your house. But if you're stepping out of your house, definitely you have to have a mask on. But the situation in Uganda, I think we were ill prepared for the whole lockdown and the pandemic, because I had a small discussion with my friend. He works with one of the biggest accounting firms, and he was telling me how unprepared Africa is in terms of the whole COVID-19 wave and how it was going to affect the economies. And I think we all felt how hard, our economies were hit by this whole COVID-19 situation. Because when I look back home, when this whole COVID-19 was starting, what really caught me was the whole thing about insurance, how most businesses are not insured. Because personally, I was an insurer before coming to Europe. I worked with Jubilee Insurance, and I was handling like different insurance policies from business to travel and all that kind. But I realized that very many businesses have a problem with insurance. And this is where now we see the benefit of insurance. Because imagine if other small businesses were insured, and then we had this wave of COVID-19, maybe some businesses would have survived. But because of that capacity of not, being able to have their business insured, I think it became a very big problem for them to survive. Because maybe somehow insurance would have been some sort of cushion for them during this trying time. But the fact that most businesses went, down, they were shut because of the lockdown. Someone is knocking. But yeah, I'll stop there. Basically that.
Yeah. It's okay. We can pick it up from there. Yes, yes, Jermaine Rwabs, you're in Rwanda currently, and we know that before the lockdown, there was a situation where the border was closed. The border between Uganda and Rwanda was closed. However, travel via air was still operational. So, you think the pandemic actually made it worse for you guys in Rwanda? Obviously, we think probably it was by the time the pandemic came, already there were issues. But how is the situation currently in Rwanda?
Okay, the borders are still closed as of now, and we don't know when they'll be opened. Obviously, there was, I think, a meeting, the heads of state meeting. Was it this week? Probably. I'm not so sure. Again, trying to iron out issues between Rwanda and Uganda, but those borders are still closed. For the air part, the airport was opened, I think, September 1st, but the Ugandan side was opened recently, I think on 1st October. So there was no movement between Uganda and Rwanda per se. And also that implies that there are no goods and services crossing borders. Obviously, I wouldn't want to put much emphasis on the COVID issue. I think the border issue between Rwanda and Uganda was more of a political thing rather than COVID. However, we have been hit a lot. We have been hit, and here actually things have become quite expensive. If you realize, I don't know if you've been in Kigali for some time. I could say 50% of our livelihood basically we're basing on Ugandan trade route, food stuff, some of the essentials in the house, like soap, what all those essentials in the house, we're basically getting them from Uganda. So the closure of the border somehow affected the whole business in between. We hope that the meeting that happened this week between the heads of states will ease up the whole situation. Otherwise, I don't know where all this is going to be. Otherwise, we might see this maybe going on until next year. It has affected businesses, of course. It has affected some jobs, of course. And to some of us who stay this side, obviously, it has hampered on our movements as well. So I would say it's a 50-50, COVID 50 and a political issue, the other 50.
Okay. Yes, Maaso Glory, we know you have friends in the UK who are Ugandans, and probably they had business going on in Uganda and travel was interrupted. I know you're a business person. How are the Ugandans in the UK trying to resume their businesses that they are currently doing, probably in the UK, or the ones that they are running right here in Uganda?
I think for most of my friends that have businesses in Uganda, we are very much reliant on the political situation and whatever the president stipulates in Uganda. Let's say, for example, so we always kind of keep an eye on what the new regulations or updates are for COVID, and this helps us to kind of like be more in the know of what we need to do as business people with regard to what is going on in Uganda. But then at the same time, we also have to look at what's going on in our country as well, in the UK as well. So it's kind of like you're looking at both countries to see how you can still conduct your business, or if there's any restrictions whatsoever, and how you're able to work through those. And at the moment, the picture is quite unclear because there is still a lot of restrictions, both in the UK and in Uganda as well. I mean, for the UK particularly, I would say that in terms of exporting products outside of the UK, there are a lot of restrictions in like the cargo planes that ship stuff are restricted. There's a smaller number of cargo planes that are flying out. And as a result of this, it means that the cargo fare is increased. And then this means that because the transportation is reduced in terms of the cargo planes and stuff like that, it means that stuff that gets sent over, for those that are into exporting, means that it takes a little bit longer than normal. And then when it reaches Uganda, there's also further restrictions there as well. So the whole process is quite lengthy. But all in all, I think what we're trying to do is just to observe whatever restrictions or whatever restrictions have been put in place in both countries. We're closely watching and monitoring these to help us to make decisions on how to move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Maaso Glory. Today's conversation, we wanted to talk about some things that are really very pertinent in Uganda. Currently, we know there's an exodus of Africans in the diaspora that are really interested in coming back in Africa. We already know that there's a huge presence of the Chinese. Already, we know we have the Asians going on with their business in Uganda. However, it seems like most of the Africans that are in the diaspora that would want to come back to Uganda in particular, if I could put it that way, or Rwanda, many of them are clueless. They don't know what to do. But then surprisingly, it seems like Asians, let's say Indians or Chinese, they seem to simply come and then find their way through. You know how you do a try and error experiment on things and then you stick around? You stick around and get things done. So we want to have a clear discussion on what are those things that Africans that would want to return, what should they do? What should they look out for? For instance, I could ask Anthony, what do you think are the things that Ugandans, for instance, in the diaspora, that have been out of Uganda, say, for 20, 25 years or even 30, what are those things you think they should really give great attention to if they want to come back to resettle and invest back in Africa?
All right, I was just trying to unmute. That's quite a very pertinent issue right now, considering those that want to come home. For starters, it's critical that people understand the value and the sort of collateral you can get from real estate. Before even you go into real estate as a business, it gives you a base. For those that are Ugandan, like Maaso Glory and Rwabs, and even those in the diaspora who need to come home, starting point is what's your base here? Do you have like a home? Do you have land where you can start? Because that's where the starting point should always be. If you have such land, or if you don't have, it's time to look and sort of formalize that process. Get to understand what sort of holding you have. Is it titled? Is your land secure? Even when you're there, it's always good to know these things, because land is one of those scarce resources that can add value. But when it's mishandled, it can really be a big pain. So I think one of the critical things that people in the diaspora can first of all consider is, what is their starting point when they get here? If there's a good base, like a piece of land, and it's secured, you can start there. Find a way to settle in here when you come. Real estate, I touched on it a bit, is a good place to start, because it's first of all a safe bet, because if you get it done right, you get a property agent, you look for the land, you find good land, get it titled, it's a safe bet. Land will always be needed, and land will always get you your money back plus more after some time. So for those in the diaspora, if you can get that sorted out, and then when you come here, working through proxies or a third party is kind of difficult. I've seen many people doing it, like Maaso Glory does it well, but it comes with these challenges. But most businesses that have high return and a big element of risk would need for you to be here. So be it production. Production is big, obviously, because the investment authority here supports those who go into production. They'll give you, as a Ugandan, obviously, you can lobby for some protectionism of some few things which may not be as available, like from where you are. But also, production gives you a lot of control on what you put out there. If take an example of one of the producers here is one of the biggest producers and oldest producers next to Mukwano is Nice House of Plastics. These people have been doing pens, toothbrushes, plastic cups and plates for like 20, 30 years now, since the early 80s. Now, if I've been privileged to see their production line, if you see what they put in to just get that little toothbrush of 500 shillings, it's so minimal that their biggest investment went into the equipment and getting their staff trained. And now they're just running that. They're just running that through and improving here and there on what sort of look and feel they expect for their product. So areas of production, areas of real estate, the money markets are very young in Africa. Money markets are a bit sensitive because obviously you need a good understanding before you go in. Many people will keep saying money markets, but if you can't explain it simply, like forex trading and all these things, you need to really tread carefully. So for starters, I think you need to create a base and see, where do I start if I come into Africa? And if I'm going there, can I operate through a proxy, or do I need to actually come? Now it varies by business how you manage. Even farming is big. I hate to be like I'm around the place on all these businesses, but each business is huge in its own right, and it all depends on which area that you're going to tackle, that your yield can come from. But it all begins with a base. Do you have land? Then you take it from there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anthony. Ken, I want to hear your thoughts. I know you have not been in the country for a very, very long time, but then you've been exposed to lots of opportunities those ends where you are, and maybe you probably have you have a perspective that you'd want to discuss in regards to pushing Uganda forward, Uganda in particular, if I could put it that way. Are there things that you've seen that probably those that want to repatriate to Uganda or Africa really need to consider in your own perspective?
Yeah, for sure. As a person who has lived here for some time, you know, in Uganda there is a saying in Uganda that says that okutambula kulaba, which translates to I mean, when you travel, you get to see a lot. Yeah, for the small time I've been here, well, 3 years, okay, it's not a small time, but at least I've come to learn very many things, and I've come to see how some businesses here operate. Because, for example, I can give you at my school where I did my my degree from, we're working on real projects, like you know, like projects you work on as students, but we're working on real projects that solve real world problems. You get? So that is how most startups come up here in Europe, like here in Italy, because in fact there are a couple of them that actually, you know, came out of some of the projects we were in, and actually they're up and running. And some of them, an example I can give you is transportation. We have like I watched a video of yours where you posted the Pioneer bus. You see, now here we have a small startup, a company that started like that, and what they were doing basically, they're offering bus services they're offering ticketing services to the bus company. So what they basically do is using an app where you actually don't need to every time carry cash on you So you basically buy your ticket and have it on your phone, and all you have to do is just to scan a QR code that is in the bus. So I think service is one of those areas that a diasporan could actually, get into, by offering some services. Because basically, when you live in Europe or when you live in the developed world, most of the things are, of course, you'll say most of the things are technological and all that. But when I was doing my research, I did a small research about telecoms, and some of the figures I got from GISMA were really very surprising. Like what they call the mobile or the smartphone penetration rate in Africa is very high. Like there are more people today in Africa that use smartphones. So as a diasporan, I think if a person decided to start a business in the area of services, like smart services, I think it would be something that, would push our countries forward, because this is a growing industry, especially for Africa. I was having a discussion with my professor, and he told me that in Africa, we are so much privileged that we are living in a time where we have smartphones and the technology is very smart. So it's not like them here, where you find that in most homes, you'll find they have like telephone lines, like the normal telephone lines. Whereas for us in Africa, when I told him, how it is, he was like, wow, you guys, like, you have more people today using like wireless technology, like, smartphones. So which means if a person targeted the service industry through, smart services, I think it would be something it would be something good for an economy, for an African economy, let's say, in that perspective. And maybe the other thing would be, the guy in Rwanda talked about delivery services. We have some companies here that do delivery, but actually during this COVID situation, some of those companies actually making a lot of money, because people are grounded, and all you have to do is just, make an order on your phone and something is delivered there and then. So I think when I came back, because when I look back in 2019, when I came to Uganda, I was so surprised seeing, we had of course, before coming, I saw Uber was there, but I found some other services, these border people, I don't remember the name of the companies, but there were so many of them that were offering that kind of transportation service. And I think it would be an ideal, business idea for someone to hook onto, like the service industry, especially using smart technology. For me, that's what I think.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ken. Yeah, that's true. We've seen already. We have safe border here in Uganda. Probably that is Uganda's success story so far. Yeah. However, truth be told, the pandemic hasn't been kind to any of the businesses. Probably the telecom industry, because people still had to have their internet on, rather their data on, and their voice still operational. But I think most industries have been hit, and I don't think safe border has been spared either. Yes, we are still having this conversation. If you're on this live stream and you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, kindly hit that subscribe button, and please go ahead to hit the like button as well. And I encourage you to share this live stream with other people. Please, you can comment, tell us what you think. We want to have this conversation with you. We don't want to talk to ourselves, but we want to hear from you. If you have any concerns that you'd want to share with us, please kindly put them in the comment section. We are going to respond to them. Yes. Maaso Glory, you've been quite silent for a while. Maaso Glory, I would want to hear from you. You've done something that is amazing. You've been able to run a business remotely. You have a business in Uganda here, though you're resident in the UK. We do not know exactly how you've pulled that off. Could you kindly tell us about the whole talent acquisition? How have you been able to identify individuals that you can work with? And how do you monitor your business while you're in the UK?
Okay. So in terms of recruiting my staff and the expectations that and the sort of like and what I expect of them. I've kind of used the UK's model of HR recruitment, whereby I have created a job specification with certain, so like I basically got hold of an employee handbook, and then I kind of like made up a checklist of all the things that I expected my employees to adhere to. So if it's in terms of things like, work patterns, behavior, performance indicators. So I would definitely advise that if someone is looking to have a business abroad, that you need to kind of set up a system in place whereby the expectations that you have of the employee are clearly indicated, whether it's in form of a contract or anything which is kind of like formal, so that both parties know what is expected of them. Because I find that in Uganda, with a lot of employment, I mean, some of it is quite formal, but other people kind of like don't have any kind of like contracts in place. So you find that staff just kind of do whatever they want. They turn up at whatever time they want, and there isn't really anything set in place to sort of like monitor that behavior and communicate what the expectations are. So for me, I made sure that that was present at recruitment stage, and also it is a continuous process which I sort of like check through with my employees as we operate the business on a day-to-day basis. So that's one of the things that I did. And then another thing that I would probably say is, for anyone wanting to consider a business abroad, you need to kind of factor in regional considerations. So what do I mean by this? So things like internet reliability, the time zone, because like, for example, the UK, we're like 3 hours ahead of Uganda. So when I'm communicating to my clients as well as my staff, then I just kind of think to myself, okay, this is the time in Uganda. So you need to kind of be aware of that and work within that particular time zone. And also, you need to kind of factor in the cost of living in Uganda, in whatever country that you're operating in. So this includes you doing a bit of research. What is the normal salary rate? What does it cost for transport, for example? What does it cost for those kind of things? And it can help you to establish maybe how much you're going to pay your staff. And luckily enough, if you're living abroad, obviously the for example, in the UK, the pound is stronger than the shilling, so you can decide to slightly offer a little bit more in terms of the package that you're offering your employees, because you know that you've now established that, okay, this is the average pay that people in Uganda get. So I want to be ahead in terms of what I'm offering my employees. So I'm going to offer them a little bit more, and that will kind of keep you ahead of the game, and it will keep your staff motivated as well, because they'll think to themselves, well, I'm not getting paid anything. I'm not getting paid as good as pay that I'm getting with my current employer. So it's just kind of like factoring in those kind of things, doing research and doing a bit of research, cost of living and pay. It will just help you to establish, how to place yourself in a competitive advantage over other maybe organizations. And then also another thing that I do that helps me is I did carry out a lot of cultural research. So with this, I kind of look at things like public holidays. It's just about understanding and anticipating any cultural differences that the people in the country that you're trading in might have. So let's say, for example, you have like Muslim public holidays in Uganda, which they don't observe in the UK. So you need to factor those in and enable your staff to work in a way which is conducive to to their own culture within their country. And it will just help you to basically having an understanding of the culture in the country that you're trading in will help you to relate with your staff as well, in case they need certain days off, in case certain things can't be done because of public holidays. So for me, that was very, very important, aligning myself and understanding the culture and the setting of Uganda before I went into open up my business. And yeah, I think all these kind of things have really helped me a lot.
Okay, thank you very much, Master Glory, for those insights. Yes, Jermaine Rwabs, we know we're trying to. Conversation is about how to resettle and do business in Africa, or in Uganda, or in East Africa. However, truth be told, there are changes right now. I think the world will probably never be the same, and certain businesses are probably really hit hard that probably people should find other ways of engaging in other types of businesses. Could you probably share what you think needs to change right now? For instance, say if it is in Rwanda, are there things that you think are probably obsolete and they shouldn't be thought of? Probably we should move on into the new normal. We call it like the new normal. Could you probably advise on what you think the new businesses that people should think of in the new normal?
Okay, thank you so much. Before I answer that question, I want to go a little bit back to the question that my colleagues have been discussing about diasporans coming back to Africa to do business. I think one of the things I want to advise our colleagues from abroad is they need to, before they do any business, I think visit the country and get to understand what's going on. Because we know, we all have friends who stay abroad, and you always hear people calling you and they say, you know what, man, if you invest this amount of money in this business, it's going to work. And you get excited. You're like, oh my God, rearing goats will be the best. Or going in for borders will be the best, because someone has really hyped you up, but you don't know. What I call research. Come back home, visit the country, and let just get to understand what is happening. You know, some people say, man, real estate is good, it's the best. If you send me $100,000, I'll get you 2 acres of land in so and so place. Yet it's not the truth. So I think the best thing, get back home, get to understand what kind of business is there, see all the players, you know. Like I think someone asked a question on the platform, said that she wants to do a mattress business in Uganda. What can she do? That is another opportunity for you to visit home, get to understand who are the players in the mattress business, what is their quality, what are they offering, you know, and then invest the money. What is the buying power of the mattresses and all that kind of thing in that country, and then do go into that. For example, there's a country I want to kind of like invest in, and I've been thinking about it for the last maybe 1 year, and people had actually hyped me up. Oh, this kind of business does. Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And I made phone calls and did some kind of conversations over there. But just before COVID, I was supposed to travel to that country to actually find out for my own self what is actually happening before I put in my money, like we normally say, before I put in my money, you know, because you can put in all your money and you start to cry. So I am supposed to go back now after this situation, go get to understand what's happening on the ground, see all the players, see the competition, get to see different political, you know, players as well. Remember that if you're a diasporan, maybe you've been abroad for a long time, you don't know how the politics works in this country, in Rwanda, in Uganda. You just come back with your, you know, heirs. We call them heirs, and you think it will gonna work. No, first come down and understand things, and then don't believe in people. But also the last maybe the thing I need to mention is that for me, I've understood about like 4 or 3 businesses that actually work. Anything to do with food, anything to do with transport, anything to do with the talking, which is internet and all that, and anything to do with hospital, that is maybe pharmacy and stuff like that. Because a human being is going to eat. A human being will have to travel. A human being will have to sleep somewhere, that is real estate. And a human being will have to fall sick and look for medication. So those are essential businesses that if you have, some of them are large businesses, and others you can start from low to medium to high in terms of investment. Okay, now going back to the question William had just asked me, what are the things that are not going to change after COVID? For example, here in Rwanda, one of the things we've embraced in this country is digital movement, if I can say. Digital payments, no cash handling, digital transaction of any sort. If you're looking for documents, you can do that digitally for police, for anything. Everything is now digital. And also that delivery part that Anton talked about. I was also reading about Jeff Bezos and Amazon. They made, I think, what, 48 billion during COVID. Why? The delivery rate was high. People are looking for services, yet they can't leave home. And I think those are the things that are not going to change. You know, there's a kind of habit that is not going to change. People, probably some companies are going to let some workers stay at home, and others are going to, you know, maybe halfway remain at work in offices. So that kind of delivery and the digital consumption has gone high, and I think it's going to stay up there. And then also on the same front of digital consumption, we have seen a lot of people getting on social media and communicating, becoming communicators on social media and all that. And so companies have embraced the social media platforms. They've embraced the digital platforms. And I think now every company that was kind of downplaying the use of digital platforms has understood its role, and I think we have now seen an increase in companies embracing digital platforms everywhere. So I have a group of friends of mine who have become busy because of just assisting companies to embrace digital consumption, and I think that is not going to change. It will remain as strong as it is as of now. The banks, they're going to see, I don't think they're going to see more people going into the banking halls, because now we have a lot of digital products where you can do your self-help, if I can say. You can go on your phone and do payments. You can go on your phone and do transactions, business to business, what we call B2B. So banks are going to see a shortfall in terms of population of customers entering their banking halls. However, that might not be the case in terms of revenue. I think the revenue is going to go high because people will be accessing all those online. When it comes to government institutions, yes, the digital platforms in Rwanda have worked. You can now get everything you want online. You can pay for your fines if the traffic guy has grabbed you driving faster, or any kind of fines online. You can do that online, pay using mobile money. So they link everything on mobile money with the two telecom companies we have here. But if also you have, say, Visa, whatever it is, again, that is also linked. So there's no way handling cash is still a problem. In fact, there was a rule or a law here during COVID, and up to now, you can't use cash in particular places because of, obviously, cash transmits COVID quite faster. So I think there's going to be a habit of people not using cash that much, and for me, that's amazing.
That is quite very exciting. Yeah, I remember I spoke to you when COVID had hit, and you told me in Rwanda cash is not is no longer accepted, and they were using mobile money. But then I wanted to understand, why is it that it's very easy to effect some of those rules, or why is it very easy to execute some of those things in Rwanda? It seems like are Rwandans very obedient? Do they simply fear the law? I mean, could you just enlighten us? Because in other African countries, probably I would speak for Uganda, it could be a bit of a hassle to push some of these things. Is it culture?
You can even see when you ask me that question, I start to smile. There's a hidden agenda behind that smile. Anyway, I think Rwandans are obedient people based on the history that this country has had in the 1994 genocide. So there has been a culture or a kind of behavior that you have to believe in what the government tells you. And there's no need why you should object, because obviously we see services, we see what the government does, we see it, the services are all out there. But also the leadership actually portrays that they're working for the people. So if the leadership is working for the people and they're telling you that if you do A, B, C, D, it's endangering your life, you need to believe, you understand? You need to believe that this is working for my own interest, not for some politician who has his own agendas. And truthfully speaking, you've been here, you see that our leaders actually, maybe I could say 90%, they're working for the interest of as an ordinary citizen. So there'll be no reason why you shouldn't accept, because we see results. You understand?
Absolutely, absolutely. Ken, we would want to hear from you. I know you have an IT background and you are into research. Could you please throw some more light on the things that you think we should introduce in Uganda or in East Africa? You know, it's a global economy. So when we are talking about Uganda, Africa, we are entirely talking about Africa, and obviously we go global. But I think it's better for us to start local, like they say, before we can go global. So what are those things that you think Rwabs might have missed out in his submission?
Yeah. Well, I like what he has said, and I like what Rwanda is doing. Well, just before I came on this broadcast, I was actually reading a document from the World Bank, and I was so surprised to see that among the top economies in sub-Saharan Africa, we have Rwanda coming second. So it's really not a surprise based on what he has just talked about. I think in Africa or sub-Saharan Africa, really our biggest problem with small businesses is mostly credit. I did a research last year just for my my research thesis about, SMEs and their access to credit, and actually I discovered that credit is one of the biggest problem of these SMEs. And I was trying to, find out if there would be actually a way on how to help these SMEs actually, get more access to this credit that is available in some of the banks. Because some of these banks actually have the money there, but the problem is people do not have maybe the collateral or do not have the requirements to enable them access this credit. And in some countries, for example, like in Switzerland, how SMEs access this credit is basically through smart systems. They basically access some of this credit through smart systems. So someone does not need to, go to a bank and then tell them, this is my company, this is what they do and all that. This is the collateral I have. It's all, all the information is in the system. And I think it's all down to the whole regulatory process. Because imagine if people would access loans that would actually run their businesses from mobile money business. How would that be? But the problem is, even the mobile money operators themselves, like the likes of Airtel and MTN, of course, they partner with other big banks, like the bank from South Africa. I think it's called the CBC something. I don't remember. it's a bank in South Africa that offers credit to most of these mobile money companies. But the problem is they cannot offer a lot of money that can actually run people's businesses. I saw with MTN and Airtel, actually they offer up to, I think, a limit of, I think it's less than 5 million. I think it's less than 5 million. So for an SME that is really starting up, 5 million really wouldn't be enough money for you to get a business up and running. And it's all down to that process of, the banks or the mobile money operators having the trustworthy in these small businesses, which is also partly a problem of the regulatory process, because most small SMEs are not registered. So imagine a person borrows money from MTN mobile money, and then because they have a debt and they can't borrow more money from that date, they simply throw away that SIM card and then get a new SIM card registered in the same names, and it appears like MTN does not have the names of that same person or business in their system, to track their record of date. So a person will basically throw away that SIM card and start a whole new process of, getting these funds from MTN or Airtel. So I think a regulatory problem is one of those biggest problems we have in terms of, accessing money through smart systems. So I think if maybe the government improved, those regulatory processes, and, they made sure that all these SMEs are registered, to enable money lenders to track down the defaulters, I think it would be much more easier for them to access credit. Because if I am the money lender, I would give you money through a smart system while knowing that it's easy for me to track you. But the problem is I can't give you a lot of money knowing that at some point it's going to be very difficult for me to track you down. So if the government works on that together with the money lenders, and they kind of make it easy for these SMEs and small businesses to access credit, I think it would be a very good thing, and it would maybe boost SMEs in terms of how they operate and all that, capital and everything else.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned something quite important. Without credit, it's very difficult for investments to happen. It's very important. It's very difficult for production to take place. However, we see. I think we need probably to step away from the whole conversation of trying to lure the government into getting into each and every business. For instance, we know the government usually has other things that it feels they are more critical in terms of investment, and it doesn't have the budget to go around. I think you've noticed very many governments. For instance, I could speak for Uganda. Sometimes they request for supplementary budget, half year, mid-year, if I could put it that way. So I'm thinking probably we should think of other ways of how we can finance our very own businesses. Because if we look at, say, if it is in the tech world, you would find that most of these companies, they start as individuals probably in a garage or somewhere, and then they develop something and probably put it out there, then start looking for funding. But we seem to believe that we can't start if the government hasn't given us a push. Probably it's because, speaking for Uganda, it could be that Uganda is predominantly an agricultural country. That's why we feel like the government should really come in, because it has to support in terms of inputs, and then it also has to streamline services in terms of, rather, it has to streamline if it comes to exports. It needs to set the exact requirements so that we have quality that is worth exporting. But if we come into other sectors, obviously it does not require the government. I think there's an opportunity.
No, William. Yeah.
Yes.
I want to interject. There's no business that operates outside of, let me say, a territory that is governed. Every business that operates in a country is under a government, either directly or indirectly, because there is no way I'll operate a business here in Italy without a government having a hand in it in one way or another, because somehow I'll have to go through the whole regulatory process, register, obtain a permit and all that. And some of those processes are actually either they're not well monitored in Uganda, or they are actually very difficult to go through. For example, Togo is actually one of the countries that is actually doing well in terms of the whole regulatory process, where the government had to come in and had to ease in the process of actually obtaining some of these permits. For example, if you want to open up a construction company, obtaining that permit to allow you to operate as a construction company sometimes, may be difficult, because construction is a very big thing. We had instances where some construction companies were carrying out some projects and buildings came down, and they were saying some of their permits were not valid. They're operating, undercover, things like that. So I think in one way or another, the government has a hand in some of these things. Imagine if a government, okay, of course we know that the central bank plays a very big role in terms of regulating interest rates and all that. But I think they can do better, because if the interest rates can be lowered, and they have strict regulatory, rules on some of these commercial banks, because I imagine someone goes to one bank, a bank A, and then they obtain a loan, but then maybe the interest rate is much more higher compared to if maybe they obtained a loan from an individual who maybe would not charge an interest. But the amount of money they are able to get from an individual is actually very less compared to what a bank would offer. But the problem is, because of the regulatory gap that is missing, so people would not go to a bank to borrow money, because they feel cheated when they go and borrow money from a bank because of the high interest rate. So I think we still have, so the government, I think, still has something to do in terms of, credit and all that. Of course, we may not depend on the government to give us the money to start up businesses, but at least they have something they can do about a process of maybe obtaining a loan, lowering those interest rates and, making the process a little bit smooth for people to borrow this money and pay it back in a way that is not really very painful and is going to maybe cost the business in the long run. Because they give you this loan, but actually, before you begin making the profits, you're already paying back the interest. And before your business gets up and is running, generating profits, you're already at verge. Your business is almost collapsing because you're in this vicious cycle of paying back credit.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. I do hear you loud and clear. I'm still thinking that probably there are opportunities there for us that there are opportunities that we can take on in terms of starting things on our side, then calling on the government. I don't know how it happens in Rwanda. You see, when we are here back in Uganda, I would speak for Uganda, we seem to hear so much tech supremacy happening in Rwanda, and we feel like probably Rwanda might be the next Silicon Valley of East Africa. So we want to know whether it is hype. Of course, I don't know whether, Jermaine, you are at liberty to exactly share in depth, but we've heard all the stories, and we literally feel like probably Rwanda is ready to be the example of probably a tech hub in East Africa. We know Kenya is doing well, but getting back to the question about government's participation in all this, Rwabs, do you think the government has a very big role to play, or we should start at some level, then let the government take over?
Thank you for that. I would want to agree with Ken on one side, but also disagree with him on the other part. For the government part, there's no way you can start a business in any country unless the government has put a level playing field. That is automatic. There are some countries where starting a business, even opening up a business, is a very tedious process. Okay? The only thing that Rwanda has done is it has made it very easy for someone to open up a business. For example, Maaso Glory, you're in UK. You can open up a company in Rwanda while in UK, and you'll have your business certificate within 30 minutes after you have fulfilled all the requirements online. All you have to do is to go on RDB website, and start a business. Everything is right there. So that's the good thing about it. Now, if you're in construction and you want to start to look for a permit to construct a building, obviously there'll be some levels where you need to present your plans. Then they have to test the soil, all that. But also that is done digitally. You can do that digitally and send it to the city of Kigali, the Department of Infrastructure and all that. They go through it, they go through your plan, and within 1 week, you have your construction permit. So the beauty about Kigali is that there is zero, I could say zero tolerance to corruption. You are not going to bribe anyone to do this because everything is online. And the other part maybe William needs to understand is that I think Rwanda has given liberty to dreamers to dream. If you want to come up with an application, you want to do something techy, the government, I think, gives you a platform for you to excel. Why? Because they want to make sure that Rwanda, as a country with limited resources, can actually benefit from the tech world and tourism, because those are our two revenue earners, if I can say, revenue streams: tourism, and probably now looking into tech and hosting conferences and all that. So why would we be stringent on letting people to open up businesses, yet we can benefit from them quickly? So I think that's the thing that the rest of the world are hearing. You come to Rwanda, for example, you can fly from Kampala to Kigali in the morning and leave in the afternoon with your company. That's how simple it is. And you have all the banks, you have done your banking, open up your bank account, you have Rwanda revenue certificate, everything within just 4-5 hours, you're done.
Okay, well, that really sounds very interesting. Probably you'd want us to relocate to Rwanda, but we also want to do stuff for our very own country. So we will take that with a pinch of salt. So Anthony,
William, the thing about the East African community is that I might be in Rwanda, setting up a company in Rwanda, but yet the market of East Africa is bigger. We are looking at about 200 million people, almost. So it's not basically that in Rwanda I can't get there. My market is Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, everywhere. The only thing is, where can I do business cheaply? Or how can I open up businesses easily, where I don't have so many restrictions and all, quid pro quo and scratch my back, I scratch yours, all that kind. And that's what the government is trying to put. But the market, you can relocate and still focus on people in Uganda.
I can tell that Master Glory is actually itching with something as an investor back here in Uganda. Master Glory, I think you have opportunity in Rwanda. I've been there, and of course you'll continue with a very good conversation with Jermaine Rwabs on how you can extend your footprint into Rwanda. However, maybe Master Glory, could you share something that you think we should do, or ladies should actually think of if they want to do business? For instance, perhaps you could draw examples in your line of business. What are those things that you think they could do? Or probably we could say, are there opportunities, are there things that you can share that they can implement on the go? Right now, it seems like so many people do not know what to do. They might not know where to start. But before the pandemic, you had your business happening. But now I would want to have a conversation on how can they start, and probably, do you think you can work beyond Uganda? Have you thought of that yet?
Of course, I think on any level of business, when you think about operating internationally, that puts you definitely at an advantage. But obviously, if you're just starting out business, it's good to start with something that you're more familiar with. I'm very familiar, having had a taste of both countries, Uganda and the UK, I just decided that let me first start with Uganda because I'm very much familiar with the community and how everything works in Uganda. So, but I think for the long term, it will be ideal, obviously, to kind of like think about expanding to an international level. One thing I have to say is that in the UK, okay, like how you guys were talking about what the government can do to support small businesses and things like that. I do agree with it to one extent, but I also am of a view that I think individuals need to kind of like also make an effort to not be so much reliant on the government and things like that. Because drawing on my own example, and this again can tie into any of the ladies that are watching, or gentlemen. When I first started my business, literally I came on holiday to Uganda, and it was literally between either I had to buy a piece of land or open up a shop. I didn't know which one was going to be the first thing. So whichever one presented itself to me was what I was going to do. So fortunately, my friend had a look around and then we found a shop. So, but I didn't really have any stock. I didn't have any stock whatsoever. In fact, I think I just had my little suitcase. It was like a hand luggage, and there was just a couple of items that I had brought with me. So we managed to secure the shop, but I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to have faith that this business is going to run, even though we don't really have much stock. So we still opened up the shop, and I can tell you that we had about um, probably about 10 items of stock. Like if you look at it as an outsider, you see that that is so ridiculous. How can you open up a shop with just 10 items of stock? Because people normally open up shop like they go and get loans and they open up the shop, it's so full. But I think sometimes you can be strategic about it. I just thought to myself, I don't have to be spending loads of money which I don't have, or borrowing loads of money which I don't have. Let me just focus with what I have, stick to my budget, and open up this on a small scale level while I progress. And the more sales that we make, I will then grow as a business. And that's exactly what we did. So I would say that probably in our first month, we probably made something like 40,000 shillings. And I look at it now and it's quite laughable because I just think, I can't believe that's how much we made. But it's like when I went back to the UK, I then started to bring in more stock, more stock, more stock. And on a month to month basis, we started to grow. So I just want to tell you, ladies, that you don't have to have a lot of money or borrow a lot of money or put yourself in debt to start off a business. You can literally just start it off small, just with whatever that you can afford, as long as you've calculated that, okay, even if I'm going to be selling tomatoes and I get like 10 tomatoes and then I sell 10 tomatoes, I can make a profit. And then next time I'll sell 20 tomatoes. Like, just work within your budget, and then slowly you can expand. So that's one thing that I have to say to the ladies. That also I would probably encourage a lot of ladies to get into the culture of having multiple streams of income. In this day and age, you just can't be reliant on having one income, or let me say depending on another person for income. Is probably more ideal for you to have your own income, but also just think of the different ways that you can make money. So, like right now, I can say that I probably have about 4 streams of income, and I'm probably working towards about 6 of them. So, I have my little part-time job at the hospital, and then I also do sort of like money exchange business within the community. And then I also have my YouTube channel, which has recently been monetized. And then I also have my shop as well. So the benefit of that is that if one thing doesn't work out, like for example, when we closed our shop in Uganda and I wasn't earning any money, my other part-time job was the provider of the income. So you can then go to, if one thing isn't working out, you can then say, okay, now let me try this other one. That's going to bring in the money, and that's going to bring in the money. So I want you to just not only think about starting one business, but also think about the different businesses that you can do just to bring in that extra bit of money, because you will always have something to fall back on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maaso Glory. Ken, do you have something to add onto that? By the way, when do you intend to return? When do you intend to return to the country? Do you really have plans to return?
Who, me? Well, given the current situation that is around, I really don't plan on coming home like soon. But I will come home. Yeah, because East or West home is best. In fact, I have a plan of, starting a business back home. And one of the things I'm really, I and my partner are really looking into is things to do with housing and maybe hospital business, like something related to health. Yeah, those are some of the things we are really looking at. But in terms of business idea, there is this Facebook stream one time I was watching, and it's a group of diasporans. They are based like in different countries. They are basically Ugandans, but it's different countries, US, UK, everywhere. This lady told us a story of how she runs market business, like Emidala, or the stalls, what we call the stalls. So she says she gets money, like when she travels to Uganda, she identifies people, and then she kind of opens up stalls. Let's say you go to a market like, let's say Nakasero, and then she owns like maybe 10 stalls in just one market that are just owned by one person. So she knows that some money is going to come from this one, the other one, the other one, the other one. Like that's how she decided to do business back home, by just doing market business while she's in the US. She just has these women that are running her stalls, and at the end of every week, I think she said end of every week, they send her money, given that now we have the technology and the money transfer services. So that money is sent to, I think, one of her relatives back in Uganda. So they kind of have this accountability thing going on. But that is the kind of business she does. Stalls. It just blew my mind. I couldn't imagine like someone doing, market stall business in Uganda. And I was like, wow, this is something maybe someone can do. So maybe if you're out there and you think you can do stall business like into markets like that, I think it's something maybe worth trying. It's worth the risk. Yeah.
So Kenny, how would you monitor how much money has been made on that? Let's say like you're not based in Uganda. How would you know that today this particular
for her, I think she knows the amount of money she gave them, because she estimated, she was like, she didn't give us the exact figure, but she was like, she gave them like 300,000 to start. Then like at the end of every week, she expects like 50,000, like at least every week at 50K. 7 days at 50K.
Them that you must give me this amount, whether you've worked or I need this amount. Okay, yeah.
Because for her, she's like, all I need from you is just 50K. That's all. The rest, I don't care. Whether you make loads of money, I don't care. For me, I just want this. So I think she knows her markup, where she really, gets her profits. So I think the rest it's just, I think, something she does to keep her going, not really to make big chunks of money. But I think it's a good thing. It keeps you going, whereas you're not at home, but you're out of home, but you're making some money from home as well. Yeah, I think it's good money. 1 + 1 counts.
That's true. Well, when you talk about multiple streams of income, I thought this is what I have in mind. I wanted us to look at a conversation whereby we are thinking of bigger investments so that we can move things. You know, the multiple streams of income, that more or less sounds like I'm having something for me. But then if we want to do something that is robust, I'm thinking we need to have a conversation of how are we going to do this as a team. Now, there are so many people that would want to return, but they do not know who they will engage with, who are they going to partner with for bigger things. So, Anthony, where do you think um, people that want to return, say from the diaspora to Africa, wherever, for instance, let's look at Uganda. What do you think should be the best thing that we can do in order to get enough money to do bigger things? Because when we all come with the mentality of I'm going to start lots of streams of incomes for myself, we might not move Uganda to the place where it should go. So could you probably throw in some advice on what you think could probably be done?
All right, thank you. Can you hear me? I had lost you back there. William,
Yes, we can hear
me, you guys. Okay.
Yes, we can.
I think what is critical from the discussion that I've picked up, which continues to theme out, is raising funds, government support, and the cost of money obviously in Africa is very high. You can't compete favorably with the sort of interests that the banks here charge, and also the government won't be the support that you need. They won't really do everything. They'll do what they can, and in most cases, you'll feel that they've left you along the way. But for starters, I would think saving as groups, embracing the culture of saving as a group, can be a big factor in raising funds. You see people in Nairobi, I've seen it in Nairobi, where people come together and they create circles where they get money collected as a group, and then this money can be used to do bigger projects than what you would do as an individual. Because if you look at the sort of projects that some people are into, if for instance you are to look at transport, just the investment of say a bus and the stuff that you would require, you wouldn't have anything below $20,000. Anything below there for any sort of transport, be it a small cab, hail a cab business, anything below there, unless you're going to start with one car, which obviously don't give you optimization, you'd still need a significant investment. And for it to make sense, you may not raise it all on your own, and also to help you spread the risk. Many times you find people obviously shunning this sort of angle of raising funds, where they feel the bank is a safer bet because they want to go at it alone. They feel maybe if I open my idea up to many people, I may sort of have to share it with all these many people in case it profits. But also, have you ever imagined that if you open up your idea to many people and you make a loss, the loss is also shared across, so you don't get a hit, a complete hit. So I think one of the things that the government has tried to encourage, although people may not listen, and also that many businesses have tried to jump onto, is sort of a collective investment. If you are to, even if you just do a Google search about Nairobi businesses that have a background in the circle world of collective saving, you'll see a significant number of them. People have set up catering businesses, transport businesses, apartments, out of coming together to share the investment and to also share the risk. So I think as individuals in the diaspora, as Ugandans even back home, if you can find like-minded people, and it's not so difficult, it starts with the like-minded people sitting down and agreeing to how they'll save and which constitution they can run these funds on, and then where to invest when they eventually reach a threshold. So in terms of answering the question on how to raise money and how to set up collective saving through circles is critical. It gives you that mileage, and then obviously it can give you a lot of muscle to start. I also wanted to make a comment around waiting on government. For what it's worth, when you're in economies like Maaso Glory, possibly, where things work, where infrastructure is what it should be, where you don't have load shedding, where the water lines are running like they should, at times you don't want to give examples from Africa because you feel maybe things are not working and they'll never work. However, what that has created in Africa, it has created a resilience where people always start and then government comes along the way to sort of give them regulation and support when they have started. Now, that sort of training and setup for business people and young entrepreneurs, you can't even find in college. Because I'll give you an example. A product like, say, mobile money never had regulation in the beginning because it had not been done here. But then when it's set up, you would see Bank of Uganda trying to come on board to learn how it works, to learn how to regulate it, and eventually they set up guidelines that can help these telecom companies operate. So at times the government can do so much for it to provide guidance and support. So at times we need to go into it by ourselves, start something, and along the way, when government is ready, they'll come in and support you. I would also like to give an example, I think, around production. Through our interactions in consulting, we've seen some people who have gone into production. A particular example was a gentleman who was into spices. Now, for those spices, he needed to get like a Q mark, a sort of a standards approval from UNBS, our standards approver here in Uganda. Now, that process on its own takes a lot of time because you take your sample.
We seem to have lost Anthony. Anthony's connection seems to have a problem. Yeah, but I think we'll,
okay.
Yes, yeah. We can hear you.
So what I was trying to get at is that this gentleman went ahead to get his product out onto the shelves, and then government followed him up much later to see that his product was good and ready to be consumed by the public. So at times we need to go, and then let government find us there. Let's be bold to start. When we call out government, at times we'll never get an answer back. And this is true, especially for us in Africa. But let's push, let's hang in there and push. Let's embrace collective saving for collective investment, because in there we shall also sort of share the risks together.
When you mention collective saving, obviously you see this phobia. People have saved in circles, in groups, and some of their monies have disappeared. So I think people are supposed to do their own background checks to see if the circles that they're working with have been around for a while. They are of good repute, so that they do not have to relive the experiences they've had. But I'm also thinking there are also other areas that are very risky that people are trying to dive into. Things like Bitcoin, things that they don't seem to really understand very well. And then surprisingly, there are so many adverts that are really shoved into our faces. Whenever you're online, you always find something about Bitcoin, working online, financial markets online, things that probably have a huge learning curve. That was just a side note, but I'm thinking we should probably focus on the things that we are really very good at. We should look at the opportunities that we have in our environment so that we can, it is easy for us to deal with the things that we are more familiar with, as opposed to trying out things that would require you to go and learn and probably take some time to understand. Some of them are really high risk investments. So I think
actually, William, I wanted to sort of delve a bit into that side note you took around things like Bitcoin and Forex, and some businesses that people consider out of, I think, ease of execution. I've actually fallen prey for some of these because before I went into private business, in employment, you'll find that whoever is your employer will give will keep you so busy that if investment ever comes to your mind, you want to execute on something that needs the least of your time. So this is where most people fall prey, because most of these schemers present an idea that doesn't require you to be there presently, but just requires your investment. So at times, these are things which are gray areas no one gives attention to. They seem profitable till they are not, or till maybe government steps in and shows you how much of a pyramid scheme they are. However, what people need to understand as a basic principle, for me, for the learnings I have received, is that if you cannot explain something simply, if you cannot explain the business that you want to go into, for instance, to a 5-year-old to understand what you're doing, then it is likely that you do not understand it well enough to make it work. I think that should be the starting point. If it's transport, you'll tell your 5-year-old, yes, I need to transport these people from there to here, and they're going to pay me this much. But now for businesses where we've seen people fall prey, and these businesses continue to flourish in Uganda, these pyramid schemes, and at times have changed forms so many times that people keep investing, not because they are ignorant, but because people want to also get the quick returns with less risk, and to also get value with very minimal effort, which is also a downside in business today. Where you're not putting in your hard work, you're surely going to be hit, because you're not seeing the ins and outs of this business, where you've put your money and you're expecting interest. For some reason, they're not going to guarantee you, and you lose money. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony, for emphasizing that bit. There are so many, and surprisingly, these schemes, they sort of evolve. None of them is very similar to what you had seen before. So they're always evolving into something. So I think, like you stated, we have to be very careful in regards to staying away from such schemes, because they are usually very smart, and they present themselves as a plug and play sort of situation. You don't have to do any monitoring, or you don't have to do anything that would require your attention to take your entire day. Thank you so much for that input. Some members had gone off. I'm seeing they had gone off. Gentlemen, you had gone off, but you're back now. We still have we're going to go for another 15 minutes before we can really wrap up this thing. So, Rwabs, would want to hear from you in regards to business. We Africans want to resettle back in Africa. There's this thing that we talked about earlier. I think that was a couple of days ago. This thing that is happening in Ghana, where I think it's called the Year of Return. Do you think, have you sensed the urgency of this whole exodus of Africans wanting to return to East Africa in particular? Do you feel the waves? Do you feel any impact of this whole conversation happening in Rwanda? And do you think there's something that should be done? Should we be excited about it?
Thank you very much. The whole thing of Black Americans or diaspora people coming back to Africa, it's a good thing, but it has its ups and downs, all pros and cons. One, most of the governments in Africa have focused mainly in making sure they tap into their citizens living abroad. Okay, but if you go back to the inception of the Year of the Return, which was, I think, initiated by the president of Ghana early in either 2018, 2019, was basically focusing not on Ghanaians living abroad, but on Black Americans in the US, basically trying to bring them back. I think you saw some people like T.I. going to Ghana. You saw Steve Harvey, he visited Ghana. You saw so many musicians and celebrities, Jamie Foxx, all those guys. It was an initiative for the government of Ghana to go and tell the people in the US that, you know what, as much as you're Black Americans, you might have come from Africa. You have your ancestors here. Come back and do business. Now, after that, I have seen so many celebrities, even people who are not even celebrities, saying they're going back to Africa. They're going back to motherland. Some of them, like Ludacris, got even a passport of Gambia. Ludacris got a passport of Gambia. Why am I saying this? We should be able to tap into these people that have lived all their lives in a country that I could say doesn't love them, because if you watch the American politics, the Black people seem like they're not loved, especially when President Trump came into power. By the way, if you Google, you see that when President Trump came into power in 2017, many white people were Googling how to go to how to relocate to Canada, and then the Black people were Googling on how to go to Africa. You know, there was all that kind of things like, I want to go back. I want to leave US because of this crazy man who has come into power. Then the white people are like, okay, we can't go to Africa because that is not our land. Let's go to Canada, which is more white, you know. So it is a very good thing to think about Africa. But for the governments, for example, Rwanda has done its own thing called Rwanda Day. Now, Rwanda Day focuses on meeting the Rwandans living in diaspora and entice them to come back home. Either whether you don't come back home, but you can invest home. So the president goes out there. Maybe he can choose, if he goes to Europe, he can choose one country in Europe like Germany, or if it's North America, he can choose either Canada or US in one of the cities. And then all the Rwandans who live there, they come and meet the president. He speaks to them. He tells them how Rwanda is. He tells them the business opportunities. Then he moves with the entourage of business people in Rwanda who actually give us statistics of how businesses in Rwanda is happening. I'm glad to mention that some of the people that I know, my cousin, he sometimes travels with the president, and they meet even investors over there. Sometimes those investors are white people who want to invest invest in Rwanda, and after the speech, there is a workshop, there is a presentation. It's like a mini exhibition. So businesses in Rwanda here, they go and exhibit. Banks, I'm glad to say that one of my clients is a bank. They go for Rwanda Day and exhibit products that are good for diaspora people. You know, like they can show them, you know what, we have this package for you. You can buy land, you can buy property while you're financing it from UK, from London, from Germany, from anywhere. And so you see, that is an initiative for the government. My question is, for my beloved country, Uganda, what I haven't seen that. Maybe I've heard of UNA, but again, for UNA, I don't know the objectives of UNA behind there. But for Rwanda, I've seen the fruits, because every time Rwanda Day ends, there you see an influx of people at RDB trying to register for businesses, asking questions, how can I do businesses in Rwanda? So yes, we need those people here. We need them back. And especially the people who have a lot of experience. You have seen things happening. I think Ken mentioned it some time back. He said, okutambula kulaba. You know, when you're abroad, for example, whenever I travel, I come back with ideas. I see things and I'm like, that business can work. But when you are enclosed in one space, in your small city, you see one selling shoes and you think shoes works. You see another person selling dresses and you think dresses work. But when you travel, you come back with different ideas, recycling products, doing this, doing that. So we need all those people from abroad with different business ideas to come to Africa and actually teach us. Some of us maybe might be stagnated. We need to be taught some of these businesses that could look small. For example, a friend of mine from South Africa visited here last year, and she saw this jewelry, local made jewelry for women. And she was very excited. She's like, man, this doesn't happen in South Africa. We don't have all these, yet they're cheap. You know what happened? She started a store online to sell locally made jewelry, got from Rwanda and some parts in Botswana and somewhere, selling them in Johannesburg. And she's making money. So you see, when you travel, you see things. So we need those people to come back and do such things in Africa.
That is very, very good. That is very good. So, Ken, since you mentioned you're not very eager in returning, please, I hope Jermaine Rwabs' submission is going to change your mind in regards to that. Yes. For those that are watching this live stream, please consider subscribing to this channel, and we will be doing this every Thursday. We'll be inviting several other panelists to discuss things that are concerning business in Uganda, in Africa, and any other socio-economic issues that are really important for us. We are about to conclude this conversation, so probably I'm going to ask each and every one of us to share something, our parts in short, so that we can bring this to a conclusion. I could probably start with Maaso Glory. Could you probably share something that you feel will wrap up your entire submission for this live stream?
Can somebody else start while I have a think about it?
It's all right. We could probably have somebody else, maybe Ken. Is there something that you feel like should be your final word in your final part in short that should wrap up your entire submission in this live stream?
Yeah, I think for me, well, every African that lives in the diaspora, when you live in the diaspora, you should know that this is not home. So work, make the monies, invest it home, so that when you reach your retirement, it would be nice to retire at home. That would be, awesome. Yeah, do business, make the monies and invest it home. When you retire, go back home and live like a king.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, Anthony, could you please throw in something? Your final word?
Yes, I actually agree with Ken. I think even beyond that, this whole COVID thing and what we've seen from its effects has been like a dry run to show us, in case calamity struck and you are not ready, how would you actually recover? Some people have gone into private business just because the season has presented the opportunities. Others have had their businesses closed, but still, it all spells opportunity. There's some opportunities out there for us to grab, but also we need to put our houses in order. You know, when you have a few, say, hours to live, and you're told to put your things in order, this has given us like a dry run for us to know. If you've run low on your savings, maybe you never saved enough in the first place, or your plan to save was not as robust. If, for instance, your job laid you off, maybe it's a blessing that you're always waiting for to now go and inject yourself in the dreams that you've always pursued. So I think we shouldn't forget the lessons that this period has brought on, because for sure it's going to come and go. But then if we don't pick out any lessons, it will really be a waste. So for me, I'm grateful that it has happened like it has. It has pushed us, but it has also given us resilience as a people, and also Africa has come out to stand and show that because many people are shocked about our numbers of casualties. I think we have the least numbers on the continent. Obviously, that shows the little preparedness has given us hope as a continent. Our leaders have also stepped in where they could, even if many times we didn't expect much from them. But then again, it all squarely comes back to us. How can we take stock of this period? What can we learn to carry with us forward? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anthony. That is well said. Yes, Jermaine, could you please share your final parting shot so that people can get a very good summary of what your entire submission is for this live stream.
Okay. What I may say is, I think we need to be prepared to accept challenges. Don't be caught up in, I was told to do this, or my profession is I'm supposed to do this. I think what we have learned during COVID is that you need to be versatile in business. If one profession didn't offer you what you're supposed to get, or if you're fired, what else can you do to survive? You know, William knows my story. You know, for me, I'm an advertiser by profession and a marketeer. My business came to a standstill, but I had to find other ways to survive. So this is what we need to do. Learn how to be versatile, learn how to have different revenue streams to help you in such circumstances. The last part maybe I can say is that Africa is growing. I think we are the fastest growing population right now. And I think by market value, we are growing big time. So we need to start thinking how to do more businesses by ourselves. And that's what I would say. Let's just be open-minded in how we do business. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rwabs. And lastly, we're going to have Maaso Glory, your final parting shot, so that we can wrap this thing up.
I'm going to say in my language a few words, a few summary in my language. Abatwala mukole sente zammwe mulekere okuba sente z'abasajja. Have your own have your own stream of income. I can never.
You're inciting violence. You're inciting violence.
In Uganda, but honestly, like most of the people that are speaking, they're like, oh, you know, I'm just waiting for my husband or my boyfriend to give me money and whatever. Like, nah, you just need to have like your own income and have your plan ready and be willing to do whatever it takes to make money. If it's cleaning, if it's whatever, just jump on it just so that you can, you know, because we're living in very unpredictable times. It might be that you do have a degree, you had your education and everything else, but right now, with the current economic climate, I think you need to kind of be thinking outside the box and just think of different ways that you can start bringing in that money, and just not just think in one line of thought alone, because that's not really gonna cut it for you. And then I would also say to probably my fellow diasporans is that I think it's good to network with people in Uganda who are trustworthy. We've had a lot of issues where, you know, people complain that people back home are not trustworthy, this, that, and the other. But I think it's time that we bridge that gap and maybe connect ourselves with the right sort of people, get to know people and network, and then you'll find, like, just like how we're doing here, like you just get to know people and you find out, okay, this person can help me in this sense, that person can help me in that sense. So this can help us to slowly begin to trust our very own people who live in Uganda or abroad. So just I guess we should do a lot more networking and just be more trustworthy, and then that will help us for when we're ready to come back home.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maaso Glory. Just to wrap up, I could probably say this has been a very good live stream. Probably just to recap, Maaso Glory has emphasized having multiple streams of income. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to her channel, she has a channel called, could you kindly remind us which channel that is?
Many.
Really, so I don't want to mess up.
I have multiple channels, but for the purpose of this specific conversation, if it's business related, my channel is called Maaso Boss Babe, and that's MAASO, and then Boss Babe, Maaso Boss Babe.
So I'll link the channel I'll link the channel into the description after this live stream is done. Then Rwabs mentioned that we can't do things the way we used to do them back end. We should think outside the box. The world has moved on. So this is the new normal. It will require us to look at things differently. Ken, you're into looking at those other businesses that probably people think shouldn't be taken seriously. You gave a very good story of that lady who was doing business here, but she was doing it remotely. So you've talked about the stalls and everything, and also the need to embrace technology that has been really taken in. Yes, and Anthony, then you've talked about government's intervention, and then the need for us to work collectively so that we can have our own money, say in circles or in groups that are trustworthy, so that we can have bigger investments. All your submissions have really been very rich and very deep, and we believe they will help people make the right decision as they're thinking about returning back to Uganda or to the African countries. I'm really grateful that you took time to come and hop into this live stream, and we've ended this live stream. We will be doing this every Thursday. I'll have other people join us into this platform. We want this to be a platform where Ugandans can come, Ugandans, all Africans from other places, Africans in the diaspora, Africans in Africa, Africans anywhere. Africans can literally be anywhere, even to the moon. So we want them to make this home. We want to have these conversations so that we take Africa to the next place, to the next level. We know that Africa is the next frontier. Everybody wants to run here, but then there are Africans that want to run out of here. So we would want to change that narrative. We would want to maintain Africa for Africans. We are not racists, but we would want to see that we take care of our continent. It's the richest continent. There are places in Congo that haven't been reached yet. So there's a lot that is there for us to discuss, to explore, and then probably enable people make the right decision about Africa. Thank you, Anthony, for joining. Thank you, Ken. Jermaine Rwabs, thank you very much, and Master Glory. We'll wrap this up and have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.